So let's call to order the Environment and Natural Areas Standing Committee for Monday, May 8th. It's about 9:25 p.m. And I just wanted to recognize that we're meeting tonight on the territories of the Coast Salish people, including our near neighbors, the Shannon Nation. So we've got the agenda before us. Are there any changes to the agenda? We're happy with that? Okay, so we'll proceed. No presentations tonight. Any public participation? We're all talked out. Great, well, thank you. So we've got a few minutes to look at. First of all, adoption of the minutes of the Environment and Natural Areas Committee of April 17th.
Move adoption.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Epp.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Shukin. Any discussion?
Councillor Gray. Hold on. Nope, sorry. Next one. I'll have a question. Thank you.
Okay. Super. Maybe I'll call the question. All in favor? Carried. So the next one is the minutes of the Special Environment and Natural Areas Committee workshop of April 25th. I have a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Councillor Shukin, seconded by Councillor Epp. And Councillor Shukin?
Yeah, could you refresh us as to what the next steps are with the climate action plan and what timelines and all that?
Mm-hmm. I'll need to dig here a little bit to get the timelines, but I believe, oh, there we are. Right at the, thank you. At the very end, we can see. So Mr. Roddick from Pinna Sustainability, he took notes and details from our meeting at council, and then subsequently we sent him two sets of minutes, official minutes, and then a record of what people had said at the meeting in the evening of the MeAsk meeting, and those have both been sent to him. And there may have been one other piece of correspondence I forwarded subsequently that had come in. At any rate, so now Pinna Sustainability have the materials, and he's intending to come back and meet with us. I think our meeting is June 8th, although I'm not sure, of the Environment and Natural Areas Committee, where he'll bring a draft plan. We'll get a look at that then, provide some feedback, carry that forward to council later in June. It may need to come back to the Environment Committee, depending on what kind of changes we want to see before we bring it to council, or whatever we might decide at that time. So I'm hoping getting to July we'll have completed the plan. The plan, of course, will have a series of actions, and then we'll get talking about those.
Great. Well, I thought it was a good session that afternoon, so thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so maybe I'll call the question on these adoption of these minutes. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. So the next is simply receipt of the minutes of the Metchosin Environment Advisory Select Committee meeting of April 25th, 2023. And there you see some of the input on the climate plan ideas.
Will you proceed?
Thank you. Councillor Shukin, and second, Councillor Donaldson. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll call the question. All in favor? Okay, thank you. So the next item on the agenda was simply a councillor's update, and I've got a few points here to raise. And one was, Colin Sparks joined us on the council night, but I thought, what the heck, we should congratulate him again from the Environment Committee, because we have the name Environment Committee and meant to deal with those issues. Well, it was the Citizens Environment Network in Colwood who presented Colin Sparks with the 2023 Environment Stewardship Award for his leadership and commitment to climate action and environmental sustainability. So Colin has been going to Royal Bay Secondary School, working on environmental projects, and formation of he was a student lead of a sustainable community council and led the creation of an environmentally themed mural on school premises. He also presented to Colwood Council constructive ideas for transportation, and he presented here, I think it was last week, on constructive ideas about housing in relation to climate. So he's an active young person in our community considering climate and the environmental issues, and that's great. He's been asked to sit on the Colwood City Advisory Committee for Active Transportation, and well, just wanted to recognize his achievements again tonight. Councillor Happ.
When I spoke to Colin after the last meeting, he said that he is graduating this year, so once he gets through grade 12, he's going to come to council and give us a couple of the presentations that he made to the Colwood Council.
Terrific. I look forward to that. Mayor Little.
Yeah, so I attended the event that was hosted by CENIC, and we had our picture done with Mayor Kobayashi and myself and Colin. They did present him with a Gary Oak tree to start the Gary Oak Meadow, and of course there were questions that perhaps Colin's grandchildren would be able to see the Gary Oak Meadow because Gary Oaks grow so slow. But anyways, they did present him with this tree and a plaque certificate for this, and it was a really nice event, and that's why at the last council meeting, since he was here, I took that opportunity to commend him for that, and certainly we can do it again. If you'd like to send him a letter, we could send him a letter from this committee congratulating him. I'm not opposed for that. So it would be a letter from the Environment and Natural Areas Committee, a letter of congratulations.
Great idea. People are open to that?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Moved by Councillor Sukin, seconded by Mayor Little. Great, we'll prepare that letter. All in favor? Super duper. Thanks for that, reminding us about that event. That's lovely. So I wanted to let people know that MIASC, Rick Prawn has stepped away from being chair of MIASC. He and his wife Nicole are away for an extended period, and so Gary Fletcher stepped up to the chair position starting on May 1st. We talked already about the MIASC meeting, where we got some pretty good feedback on to provide into the climate action plan. And I wanted to let everyone know that we're going to tackle the invasive black knapweed at Tower Point again. And the CRD folks, Jenny Eastman is the person in charge at the CRD. She's got a team that are involved in dealing with invasive species across the CRD. And it'll be a little bit later this month. CRD will be at Tower Point, and they've got quite a bit of black knapweed in the big field there, and they'll be treating that with a pesticide, with an approved pesticide application person. And then we're hoping to go from there to the neighborhood around Tower Point, where there's I wouldn't say quite a bit of knapweed, but it's sort of spot located. There's like individual plants that have been located by the CRD and previously by Ken Farquharson and Annie McKinnon, who walked that area. Ken particularly walked around and they mapped it all. And I think this will be the second year of treatment of black knapweed on those properties. And where we will turn up to sort of guide and the pesticide applicator is into the Machosin right-of-ways and ditches. And then we're hoping then to also provide a letter to the local residents to let them know about black knapweed, and if they have it on their properties, to remove it, and the particulars about removing it, and how to deal with the this particular invasive. The hope is that we'll actually eradicate it from the site, but it probably will be another year at that anyways. There's also, in the same area, there's two Japanese knotweed plants that have been treated in the past in the same procedure, and they'll be treated again this year, is my understanding. So that's just something to let people know about. Black knapweed is a terrible problem in terms of how destructive it is on the landscape. Mayor Little.
You might want to ask staff to put something on our website to notify residents. I think that would be a good idea. And somebody else might want to put that on that, take that and put a link to Facebook on the Machosin sites. I think it's more than 1 year actually. I think it was either 3 or 4 years. 3 anyways.
It may be, yes. I think the knotweed was treated last year, but the others I'm not sure about. One of them looks like it's completely dead, but we're still looking at it to see. Councillor
I just
Donaldson.
have a question. I don't know a lot about knapweed other than I hear it's horrific and hard to get rid of. So the pesticide they're using, does knapweed grow in an area that people and their dogs would be traversing through? Because Tower Point's very popular for dog walkers.
Yeah. I didn't ask that question about either the chemical nor the what they do, but it's a sort of a work crew event, so it may well be taped off. I don't know. The pesticide that or the herbicide that I'm familiar with for knapweed is picloram, but I'm not sure they're using that here. It's used by BC Hydro all around the province. But I don't know the particular product here. It might be glyphosate, but I can't recall. We did talk about it, but I'm not sure.
I think.
You know?
Yeah, I can't remember what the specific pesticide was, but I remember extensive conversations when this came up a few years ago, and that the CRD was using the only pesticide that they could use because it is such an invasive plant and it really does take over. And so they had already gone through the quality control and they picked the pesticide that was the least harmful to other species and more directly affecting the black knapweed. But they also put signs up in the area at Tower Point where everybody is there with their dog. Yeah.
Yeah, and I recall that it's a pesticide that degrades. So unlike picloram, which stays around forever, as far as we know, this one is meant to disappear as it kills the weeds. But I'll find out about that. I'll ask about pests and I'll confirm about signs. That's great input. Thank you. The other thing is that I haven't listed it here, but I've following on our conversation at our last meeting, Councillor Donaldson, I've spoken to Fire Chief Dunlop and her staff in the fire department, and we're hoping to get a broom bash going in the near future. I also was in touch with Kathy Atherton about the Tansy Wagner, and that comes a little bit later in the season. But we'll see what we can do about broom. The idea is simply to put a notice out, see if some areas, if people are interested, and if they are, if people do tear it out, then we would have the help of the fire department to pick it up and dispose of it properly. It'll be a small project to start. But
One quick observation, there was a bunch of broom picking that was done on LeBon Road, which the fire department came and helped us eliminate. And those piles were burned so thoroughly and so quickly, it was amazing. Like nothing left, and they must put them up as they are trained to do. So yeah, that'd be great.
yeah. It's kind of what kind of take up we get. We'll say we'll be successful if we let people know about it, and if we get out and do it a little bit, that's great, and we'll try and build it back. It was back in Councillor Marley's time that it all began, and hasn't been done for a few years. The other thing I wanted to mention, we had, I had in the previous MEAS meeting, we'd, when we looked at the minutes, we let you know about some work that we were doing. Fire Chief Dunlop had become interested in the question of spill response on the shoreline. So the West Coast Marine Response Group are out in the ocean dealing with the spill, and they have the ships and the skimmers and all that to take care of it. But the worry is there's a golden hour, as the oil or the product comes to shore. I believe the West Coast Marine Response will have a response, but it doesn't get here for some time. So there was a discussion that we had with some folks from the Shannon Ocean Center, and it turns out there were two areas that we were interested in working with them, and we're sort of carrying on in terms of the question of the sensitive parts along the shoreline. You'll recall that we're going to meet, a few people from MEAS are going to meet with Michael Lowry of the West Coast Marine Response Center. And we found out that, the Ocean Center people from Shannon Nation are also meeting to talk about the same question. And the traditional territory is, of course, the same shoreline. So we thought, oh gosh, let's get together with them. They're a little bit further ahead in some of their identification of sites and see what they've got. And perhaps we can meet WCMRC together. The second point, though, was that this idea of us joining together with Shannon Nation in terms of this, if you will, quick response, the early response. And we'll learn more from WCMRC about how much a response they provide on the shoreline. But we're hoping that Mayor and Council might agree that we be in touch with the Beecher Bay Chief and Council and get an agreement that we could work together, that we should work jointly together on that. And if that would meet the committee's approval, I would ask for a recommendation or motion to that effect. That mayor and council reach out to Beecher Bay Chief and Council to reach an agreement on jointly developing a shoreline spill response plan.
Well, I can make that motion. So be it.
Thank you. And a second?
So that, just for clarification, that was that mayor and council would reach out to the mutual council at Shiana First Nations to have initial discussions regarding a shoreline management plan in the case of a spill response.
Yes. And how big a job that will be is not entirely clear. We need to get better notion of what's WCMRC itself doing and what are we doing in the meantime. And then if they arrive on shore, what are we to do? It's kind of getting the idea that we're here first, we already live here, so what can we do in that vein? So
I second.
Thank you. Any further discussion on that item? That sounds okay? Yeah.
I just think that the fire chief, has already been involved, as you mentioned, so she should probably be included in that motion, I think.
Yeah.
Yes, in fact,
consulted first and then.
That would be perfect. And then MEASC was recommending that if, in fact, council would like to do this, then that Stephanie Dunlop, fire chief, with the support of MEASC, be the chosen lead.
Yeah, so maybe change that motion around to consultation with the fire chief to begin with, and then with her, not with her approval, but with her comments and suggestions, then reach out to Shiana First Nations. Good point. Great.
That's what she's been involved in to this point, and her idea was that she would lead, and so that fits perfectly. If everybody's happy with that, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think we are.
Mm-hmm.
I'll call the question. All in favor? Thanks. We'll call that carried. Thank you so much. There's so much to learn about this spill response. Each time I get together with somebody, we will learn a little bit more. But it will be a real pleasure to work with Shannon Nation folks on this because of our shared interests and also just getting to know people there. So the final point that I had to raise today was whether or not Council would be interested in endorsing a resolution to go to UBCM about supporting biodiversity in local communities. So protecting biodiversity and enhancing biodiversity is important, I already know, to this council, mayor and council. And in our strategic plan, we've got a couple items, to bolster that. The idea here is to lift the profile to the provincial level and ask that specific funding be established to assist municipalities. As we work on this kind of thing, one of the kind of activities that can be undertaken, for example, is protecting land, and sometimes that costs money. Buying land costs money, those sorts of things. And we think the province may be interested in this idea. So this came to me via Jackie Larkin, who's a local resident, and she was asking if we might be interested in it. And I said, well, where does it come from exactly? And she said, this is early work of Sierra Club BC. They're talking to different municipalities to find out how interested they might be. And I thought, well, what the heck? I'd ask folks here whether they would like to pursue this or not.
I see absolutely no reason to not support this, and I find the idea of a local natural areas protection fund quite intriguing. So,
yeah. Thank you. Mayor Little.
Yeah, so I just wanted clarification on this. It's good to know where, I was wondering where this originated from. But are we endorsing the resolution, or are we putting forward our own resolution to UBCM? So I'm not sure whether Sierra Club is a member of the Union of BC Municipalities and whether they would be able to put forward a resolution. So I think it would be the municipalities, the districts that would put forward the resolution, and then at the meeting we would endorse others. So that's the first comment. And the only thing that gave me pause for thought is that I'm just wondering what the province is going to do with this. Is it actionable enough? Are we asking? Are they going to receive this like a motherhood statement? I'm wondering if it can be reworded, and I'd be interested to see what the Sierra Club had put forward. Maybe reworded that there's actual asks here. So it is.
It's tight.
Yeah, so it doesn't really, it says we're asking the province to work with local governments and First Nations. It's not defined in such a way that there's a takeaway point for the province. In saying that, maybe you want to have it loose. I don't know. What we learned from the AVICC is that the more information there is, the more that people can vote against and try and partition out and split the motion. So, and I'm wondering if it's worth it in here in upfront to define what we mean by biodiversity. I mean, are we talking about a variety of life in the world in terms of a particular habitat or ecosystem? Are we talking about a variety of living species being bacteria, fungi, microorganisms, plants and animals in the natural world? Whose definition are we going to use? The WHO definition, the common definition? And is this a meaning that biodiversity is looking at the variance and the variety of life on Earth, including all those species that I just mentioned? Then the other comment that I have, where does it come from? That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, those are good questions. So I think what I'm talking about is us, carrying the resolution forward, and others would join us, or others will adopt this. So there'll be a number of districts that would go forward together, and we'll learn about that as the date gets closer. In terms of, so I'm just thinking now, we bring it to council. So how about if between now and if people are open to it, between now and council, I'll add another bit more detail here in terms of what you're talking about, the definition of biodiversity. I'll find out about if we have, I believe at the moment there are no other districts have gone, but they may have by council meeting. So I'll check about that in terms of supporting a resolution from another group versus leading. And then the third point was, so a bit more detail about the actions, as you say, the actions that would take place. Please.
And then I believe you're going to have to do that lickety split because the deadline for UBCM I think is June 8th for final resolutions. So, but it doesn't hurt to have other resolutions at the convention on the same theme. Yeah. It doesn't. I mean, that's actually a good way of doing it, because if one resolution doesn't pass because someone doesn't like a particular word or doesn't like paying attention to fungi, for instance, then the other resolution will pass. So it doesn't hurt to have multiple resolutions on the same topic, and that's what we've seen for years. Like with the old growth, there were multiple resolutions on the same, and that shows that there's broader interest in municipalities and districts bringing forth solutions to the province.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, how about if we, could I take a motion on the Environment Committee recommends Council consider an amended resolution as follows, or how should we do that?
To be crafted and smoothed out in the next week and bring it forward to Council. I think that's a great idea.
Okay.
Do you want that motion?
Yeah.
Okay, so moved.
Great. Thanks.
So do you want to repeat it for
so what it would be, the Environment Committee recommends Council consider an amended resolution for the 2023 Union of BC Municipalities Convention, taking into account the comments made this evening, and as follows, and then the resolution is there.
Okay, I'll second that.
Okay. Did you?
No.
Did someone move the motion?
I moved it.
Okay, moved it. Councillor Shugan, okay then?
Yeah.
Yeah, Councillor Shugan moved the motion, and Mayor Little seconded the motion. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried, thanks so much. I think that concludes the agenda that we have before us this evening. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Moved by Councillor Epp, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. All in favor? Thanks so much. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.